Can you please elaborate on non-compete clause in labor contracts? Yes. And non-competes, so the general rule in the UAE, non-competes are legal and they're enforceable. However, there's a lot of caveats. One is they can only be enforceable if the underlying non-compete agreement is reasonable in scope. It's reasonable in scope of services that it covers or the expertise. It's reasonable in terms of geographical location and time. What that means is that, well, for example, if a non-compete prevents somebody from working for 2 years, that's just too long. Even 1 year is too long, generally speaking. If, for example, it prevents somebody from working anywhere in the UAE, that's just broad. That's too broad, overly broad. It will not be enforced. And in terms of the scope, if it prevents somebody from exercising their trade anywhere in like the UAE, for example, or even in Dubai, that's also not going to be enforced. So in other words, for non-compete to have a chance of being enforced, it needs to be very narrowly tailored. So let's say if you are in tech services, you're an engineer, a tech engineer. If somebody your non-compete agreement prevents you from practicing in the tech space, even if it's only for 3 months, and in the Emirate of Dubai, that's considered overly broad, because what else are you supposed to do for those 3 months? So in order for non-compete to be enforceable, it has to be the field in which you're trying to prevent somebody from working should be very specifically drafted, and the ultimate objective has to be so that the person does not compromise or does not damage the interest of their previous employer. So it has to be only non-compete with an entity that ultimately would be competing with the previous employer, not just because I don't want you to practice the skills I gave you somewhere else. It's more about I don't want you to practice the skills I gave you with somebody who will be my direct competitor, and therefore by going to them, my business has real chances of being compromised. So that's the idea of non-compete. It's not about preventing somebody from exercising their newly acquired knowledge, but rather not hurting the company that gave them that knowledge. So that's very important to keep in mind, and that's because also in terms of and this is the other nuance of UAE non-compete principle, is that while it is, even if you have a narrowly tailored agreement, it is enforceable. The enforcement part of it is only basically retroactive, meaning it's only for compensation. It doesn't have injunctive powers. In other words, the UAE courts here will not issue a decision preventing an employee from working. They will only exercise their authority to compensate the company for employees' breach of the agreement. So it has to basically, it's retroactive. It's just to basically like a damage control provision, and not a future or preemptive provision. So that's important to understand. So non-competes, even in the best case scenarios that I have yet to see in the UAE one, non-compete that is actually narrowly tailored to be enforced. But even in those cases, you need to, the company can only seek compensation, one, and two, compensation against damages that the company can substantiate. It has to show that, yes, this employee, by virtue of leaving and going to work for that entity, caused me damages to the tune of X, Y, and Z, and it has to be substantiated by specific documents.